write a style such as dim line, okay, which will contain all these styles. And then whenever you want to introduce those styles, you have to simply say dim line, so that all the dimensional lines are styled according to them. And it has many advantages, as some of them are listed here, that you have a very good control. For example, if you change your style, then all the dimension lines will be changed automatically. It will lead to consistency, because it will never happen that one of the dimensional lines is left as such and rest of them have been styled. That will not happen, so consistency can be maintained. Then we obviously have usability. You can use the same style again and again just by tweaking it a little bit as per your requirement. And this tweaking also leads to refinement, and your code will be much more maintainable, because you know that all right, these styles have been defined once and then we are using it again and again. So I will simply give you one example. This part I will okay, so first let us see what is the syntax. So the syntax is something like this. If you want to give a global definition, then you can use this particular syntax, where you can say that \tixty set, you'll write the style name, you'll put a forward slash, then you'll put a dot, you will write style equal to, and then it will contain all the list, all the options. So I will neglect this particular part because I have not gone through too much of details. But what you can focus on in this particular style. You can see that what I am saying is that the name of the style is dim lines forwards slash dot style. Then I am saying what style I am giving it. I am saying that it should be thin, okay, and it should be double headed. There should be an arrow at the starting also, and there should be an arrow at the end as well. So you can see that in this particular case, okay, this is how I am mentioning those styles. So I have defined this style once, and now I can use it again and again wherever I want. Okay, and now you can see that these dimensional lines are now actually drawn thin. I did not mention that here, as you can see. Okay, and here they are double sided arrow you can get. Okay, so that is the advantage of these styles. As we have mentioned previously also, that LaTeX is kind of a programming language, and with programming language, the advantage is that you can use loops. So we have this command which is known as the for each command. Okay, it is kind of a for loop, and you can see first you can see its usage. For example, here you can see that what I have done here. Just if you know any programming language, then you can easily understand that what is happening here. But even if you don't know, then also it is easy to understand. So the syntax is like this: \for each, then you give the name. This is the name of the variable. You can call it the variable in. Then you can see that there is a list, and then there is a set of commands that needs to be executed. Now this is my opening brace and this is my closing brace. Okay, what is happening inside it? You can see that I am drawing. I am saying that the ball color should be black. So when I say ball color should be black, then the circle will be made like this. As you can see, it will look like a ball of a black color. And where I want to draw it, you can see that what I have written here is \i, 0. Now what will this command do? What will this line do? Okay, so what this line will do, in the first loop, it will set the value of \i to 0. In the second loop, it will set it to 2. And because the difference between 0 and 2 is 2, therefore, I hope you can guess that the next number will be 4 and next number will be 6, and there it will stop. Okay, so what is happening is that a ball or a circle, you can see that I have given the command for circle. A circle is being made at first 0, 0. Okay, then you can see that the \i will have a value of 2. That means at 2, 0, then at 4, 0, and then finally at 6, 0. Okay, so you can see that these 4 balls are being made, which are being made over here. Okay, so this is 0, 0, this is 2, 0, this is 4, 0, and finally this is at 6, 0. Okay, in the next for loop, I have used something else. Okay, so now this is another feature of for loop. If instead of one variable you want two variables, then how to do that? Then the syntax is something like this. You say backslash I, which is the first variable, then you put a forward slash, then backslash j, which will be our next variable. Okay, and what are the values of those variables? They are, for example, backslash I will have values 1, 3 and 5. Backslash j will have values a, b and c. So I will leave this as a homework for you, for as an assignment to you, to understand why this particular code will produce this output. Okay, I hope it will be easier for you to understand this. Okay, so you can see that in this particular for loop, you can not only use one variable, you can actually use two variables. So again, I will not cover all these things, but I hope they will be self-explanatory. Okay, you can try for yourself. Instead of looking at the output, you just look at the input and you guess. You separate this out or you hide it. Okay, and then you, just by looking at this particular command, you try to figure out what should be the output. Then you compare it later on. Okay, there are some subtle points. For example, there is some rounding error, as you can see here. Its solution I have given here. Again, I will not go into the details of this particular solution, but sometimes you can find these rounding errors. That is because the tech has some finite accuracy. Okay, it is not as good as other programming languages. That is why it is not used as a programming language actually. So such kind of rounding errors can occur. Again, there are some more examples which I hope you can do for yourself. You can perform for yourself. Now I'm giving you this example of for each loop. You can use it in the draw command as I have shown here. For example, what we are doing is that we are starting from 0-degree angle at a distance of 2 units from the origin. So if this is the origin, okay, then what we are doing is that we are starting at angle 0. All the angles are measured with respect to this horizontal axis and at a distance of 2. So we are starting from here. Okay. In the next loop, you can see what is happening. The value of I will be 60. That means from here, we are going to a point which is at a 60-degree angle at a distance of 2. So if I draw a 60-degree angle here at a distance of 2, then you can see that you will come at this particular point. Then you have 120 and so on, and you will keep going till you reach 300. So this will become 60, next will become 120, then we will have 180, 240 and finally 300. So you will see that this hexagon will be drawn using this for each command. Okay, I hope that is clear. If someone wants to ask anything, then please go ahead. Okay, so this is just one example that I have copied from the manual. Again, I'm not going to explain to you, but you can make this particular clock using this particular code. Okay, and I think it will be a good exercise for you also to actually draw this particular clock by yourself, just by knowing the things that I discussed last time and the for each loop that I discussed today. Sometimes you want to achieve something. For example, in this particular code, what I actually wanted was that 0 square, 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, and so on. But what it has done is that it has not evaluated this expression, and it is printing just like this: 0 star 2, 1 star 2, and so on. Oh, I'm sorry, it is not to the power, it is actually multiplied by. So 0 multiplied by 2, 1 multiplied by 2, and so on. I was expecting an output of 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. But I got something else. So if you want to evaluate the expressions, then what you should do is you should use this particular syntax: evaluate equals variable. For example, in this particular case, I am taking this as the variable \x, and this command is saying that you evaluate \x. Don't use its literal value, use its numerical value. So what will here now happen is that my first term, here I have written \x, Okay, my first term will be 2 to the power 0. Next term will be 2 to the power 1, and so on till 2 to the power 8. And therefore, I will get an output like this. Okay, so if you want to evaluate something, then this is the syntax that you should use. Now, sometimes what happens is that what you want to do is, for example, you have, for example, in this particular case, you can see that I will have values 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? Let us say that it will have these values, but you want j such that j is equal to 2 times of I. Let us say that this is what you want. Okay, then what you can do is you can use this particular syntax you can see here. Now, it is not a very easy syntax to remember, I know that, but this is how you do it. What you say is you evaluate \i as \j using \i into 2. So what it will do is, what all this arcane language will do is that it will put \j equals to \i multiplied by 2. Therefore, now the values of j, these were the values of I. What will be the possible values of j? For every loop, they will be 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. Okay, so this is how you can achieve such mathematical results in the for loop. Sometimes what happens is that you want to remember previous values. Okay, for example, some loop was executing and you want to remember what was the value of the variable just prior to this loop. Then you can use this particular syntax. So it is best to illustrate everything with an example. Here you can see that the previous value is being remembered in the form of the macro \j. The current value will be this value. For example, for every loop, let me write every loop. So how many loops will be there? You will have the value of \i for every loop will be 0, 60, 120, 180, 240, 300, and 360. These will be the values of \i. What will be the value of \j? Okay, so in the next loop, it will take the previous value, which is 0. So it will keep going like this. Then we will have 60, 120, 180, 240, and 300. Okay, but you will see that one of the values is missing. What should this be the value? What should be the value of here? So this value is specified by saying initially 0. That means it will take the initial value. It will, because it does not know from where to get this value, so it will take its value from here. So its initial value will be 0. Okay, so I hope it is all right and you can understand these things. If you have any question, then you can ask, please. Okay, remember that this is what this syntax does. Remember \i as \j. That the value of \j will be the previous value of \i. What if I wanted the initial value to be 360? Then what I should have done? I should have, instead of writing 0 here, I should have written 360. Okay, now what I want you to do as an exercise is that I want you to figure out later on that why this code will produce this hexagon. Okay, so this part I hope you can understand by yourself. Okay, for the first case, maybe I can explain it to you. It is drawing a line. For example, you can see that in the first loop, the values of I and j are 0 and 0. So it is drawing from 0, 0 colon 2 to 0 colon 2. That means it is not drawing anything. In the next loop, you can see what is happening. Okay, in the next loop, what is happening is that it will draw. For example, the value of j is 0. So it will draw from 0 colon 2 to the value of I is 60. That means 60 colon 2. That means it is drawing from this particular point to this particular point. And similarly, you keep checking. You check that what will happen in loop number 3 and so on. Okay. So again, if there are any questions, I'll stop maybe for a minute. All right, it appears that there are no questions. And sometimes what happens is that you set your macro, you set your, for example, let us say that I have written something like this: for each backslash I in A, B, C, D, and so on. Okay, till Z. Let us say you wrote something like this. Okay. Now what will happen is that the value of I will vary from A, B, C, and so on till Z. But let us say you want to get the count of the loop from. Okay. Okay. Is it audible now? Or is still some problem is there? Okay. So let us say that you want to get the count also. What should be the count of the loop? Then you can get the count of the loop through this syntax. Okay. For example, my first count will start from 0, 1, 2, and so on. Okay. But let us say you want your count to start actually from 3, or let us say from 30. Then what will you do? Then you will take this part from whatever is the value that you want. Okay. So again, let us see one example. In this example, you can see what is happening here. In first, let us look at this particular loop. Now the count is given by backslash j. That means in the first count, the value of backslash j will be 0, value of backslash I will be a. In the next loop, these will be the values. In the next loop, these will be the values for this particular loop. Okay, so it is placing A, B, and C, and it is doing in the text color blue. Now you take a look at this particular case. Okay, so maybe I can clear it a little bit. Let me not clear that one. Let us talk about this particular loop. Now you can see that it is saying now you count from backslash j and start from 4. Okay. Then what will happen is I think I have made a mistake that the loop count does not start from 0. It actually starts from 1. I'm sorry about that. It starts from 1. It does not start from 0. Okay. Now here what will happen is that it will start from 4. So according to this particular next case, now we will have backslash j backslash I. The value will be d, e, f, j, k. And the value starting from 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now the text color I have set as red. So this corresponds to my first loop, which was here, and this corresponds to my second loop, which is here. Okay, and this again I can write that this corresponds to my first loop and this corresponds to my second loop. Okay, I hope for each loop is this is okay for you. I will skip this part. This is something important that I wanted to point out, that let us say you want to draw some curve starting from this point to this point, let us say. Okay, then what you can say is that you draw from here to here, okay, but start at an angle of 30 degree and end at an angle of minus 120 degree. Okay, so in that case, instead of writing, let us say if this is 0, 0, and let us say that this is 3, 0, okay, then you will not use this because it will draw a straight line. Okay, this will draw a straight line, but you want to draw a curved line like this. So instead of drawing these two, we will say 2. Okay, and then I will say what is the input angle when it is entering and what is the out angle. Okay, so you can see all these things here, and specifically this particular command. You can see that when this curve is being drawn from 0, 0 to 3, 0, it will its out angle, that means when it is going out, its angle will be 30 degree, and when it's coming inside to this particular point 3, 0, then its in angle will be minus 120 degree. Okay, so therefore this command is very useful and it will come handy in many situations. Now, as you can see that I have too many slides here, which obviously I cannot cover and I will not cover. Okay, but I will share all these slides. I think they are already shared with you to see that what are the important libraries and how to use them. So I hope you can do it in your free time whenever you have some time. Okay, so these are some very, very important libraries, but which I unfortunately don't have time to cover. And as you can see that using such libraries, you can make such flowcharts as well. You can decorate the path also. If you want to draw something like this, then you can use path decoration. Okay, and you have to use some libraries which are mentioned here. Okay, you can make zigzag path, you can make a brace, because brace are many times required to highlight something or to annotate something. Okay, you can make this coil and all those things. You can make a wavy line like this. Hello, am I audible? Okay. Okay. So coordinate transformation is also very, very important, which I will skip. You can do something like this, that you can focus on some, or as it says, spy library. You can spy on something. You can see that a circle is drawn here and that circle has been enlarged and shown over here. And same thing has been done over here also. Okay, so you can zoom on to something. It is as if you are looking through a lens. So these things can be done using the spy library, again, which I'm not covering now. And as I said, that it is going to be a rather short lecture, and I will simply show you some examples so that in whichever field you are working, you find some motivation to use this particular library. Now, I have not included my own subject, which is physics, but I have included some other subjects. So we have a very wide audience, and as is mentioned here, that it is just for exhibition. I am not providing any solution for anything or any explanation also. It is just to motivate you to use this TIXI package or the corresponding libraries, so that you can use this for your own personal work in whichever field you are studying. Okay, and all these examples, I have not made those examples. They have simply taken from the package documentation. So this is an example that chemistry students can use, that this package, ChemFig package, this is a very, very useful package for chemistry people. You can make some complex looking structures, molecular structures, using some very simple code. As you can see that these benzene, I don't know what ring it is. It is not benzene, obviously, but these kind of ring structures you can form. Mechanical engineering people can make diagrams something like this, and these diagrams can be made in 3D also, like this. Okay, the package which you can use is the Stanley package. Okay. And obviously the electronics people can use this Circuit-Z package, through which you can not only draw such analog circuits, but you can draw digital circuits as well, using AND gates, NOR gates, and things like that. Okay, so that is it. So this was a very short presentation that I prepared today, just to showcase you some important things, and for each loop and styles I have discussed, but other things I have not discussed. Okay, because I want you to practice. Practice is more important than my lecture. Okay, so that is it for now. Thank you. If you have any questions, then I'll be happy to answer.
Dr. Abhinav?
Yes.
Vishal here.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, like, yesterday also somebody asked, like, this is still okay if we are teaching, or if we are having lot of data, and like if we want to do something with that,
Yeah.
like any kind of plotting, or how this LaTeX will be of help in that sense?
Yeah, we will see that in my next lecture.
Okay, fine.
Which will start at 4 p.m.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so if there are no questions, so what we can do now is that whoever is in Sunisha's tutorial, they can stay here, and other people can switch over to whichever group they belong to. Okay, so that we can complete our tutorial today. Okay, so I will just log out from here and I will log into my own Google link. Okay, so whoever is, I think, in group